Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday night edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular. You got to unmute your microphone there. We are here tonight with our twin bookshelves. Russell Dobular, everybody. There he is.
Hola, mis amigos.
Matching sets. I think this is, marks 1 week since I put the bookshelf up. That's right. 1 week since the bookshelf has been a part of the set here. Still have the high school year drop back there. Didn't get rid of it. Just added to it. Just built on it, as they say. But it's a pleasure to see you all here tonight, 9:18 to start things off in the YouTube
It's like
chat.
we're doing the show side by side.
Yeah,
we feel like we'll lose street cred if we don't pretend to be in two different locations.
That's right. That's right. It looks like one set. 9:44 in the YouTube chat. And a very nice crowd filing in on Rumble as well. 737 over there. That's good for a left arm. Big crowd in here tonight to start things off. Bigger crowd than what started things off at the Jamaal Bowman AOC Bernie Sanders rally. Much bigger. Much bigger. Think about that, folks. We have right now
very big crowd.
996 plus 755. We got about 1,750 people here. That's about 6 times the audience of the Bernie Bowman AOC rally.
All right. So I talked to Jose about this. All right. So I panned back at the time that AOC was coming on stage, and it was still pretty empty. Like it never filled up. Now, Jose says he thought there were about 1,000 people there. There might have been. I mean, by the time Bernie's talking, I'm in the front filming. And then as soon as it ended, I ran to try to catch them, which they made impossible, as you'll see. So I never really saw what the maximum crowd was, really. But pathetic in any case. Like, best case scenario, 1,000 people for a Bernie AOC rally. All right, Bowman. I mean, who gives a shit? But a few years ago, they were packing Astoria Park.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, okay. If normally they were getting crowds when they went places, you could say, all right, it was a very hot day, and it was fucking brutal. Look at the videos of Jose's interventions on AOC. There's nobody there. There's nobody there.
Also, look at the Trump rally.
Unique to the day.
Look at the Trump rally I covered in New Hampshire.
It was brutally hot that day, too.
No, not well. That I'm talking about. That's in the Bronx. I'm talking about the one I covered in New Hampshire. It was 0-degree wind chill, and you had people lined up for hours to get in. Thousands of people lined up for hours. And I love the excuse because a couple of people clapped back on Twitter. Well, it was hot that day. Oh, it was hot out, so I guess AIPAC can have the seat then. I mean, I guess that's the fighting spirit of the DSA aligned progressive left. Well, I mean, we would go out and organize against AIPAC, but look at the heat index.
Well, you know what's really funny? They were talking so much.
They should have had sunscreen tables set up. AOC could have been sampling some sunscreen. It was so hot.
Yeah, Korean sunscreen though.
Yeah.
They made such a point of talking about lack of diversity at Trump's rally and those people not being from the Bronx. Now, I did not poll people about where they were from, partly because, as you'll see, unlike the MAGA people, the AOC people did not want to be interviewed. They did not want to talk. They did not want to answer questions. So I didn't have a lot of opportunity to ask that. But I will tell you, having been at both rallies, this was a much whiter crowd than the Trump rally. I am not saying the Trump rally was representative of the Bronx, but it was more representative of the Bronx than this crowd was. This was like a DSA crowd, and a bunch of white kids, basically.
Yeah, it looked that way. To me, that's not surprising, and we're going to get...
You'll see it on the footage. Other than the protesters, those were the brownest people there.
That's right. All right, so we are going to get into some segments. That's our first one on the evening. Jake is here in the booth, everybody, so say hi to Jake. Thanks, Jake, for being here. Round of applause in the chat for Jake. Just a program note, we will be switching over to Rumble for our post-show Q&A after the program. We did a little bit of a mulligan on the show lineup tonight, so I know in the newsletter announcements, Patreon, Substack, Locals said the final 2 segments will be Rumble exclusive. That will not be the case, so the entire segment lineup will be simulcast on YouTube and Rumble, but then we will be switching over to Rumble for the Q&A, which paid members have call-in access to. That is still on for the evening. Don't you worry about that. So as we've been talking about a little bit already as the crowd files in, there is a primary coming up in 2 days on June 25th in New York State, and all eyes are on the 16th district primary between Jamaal Bowman and George Latimer, and what polling there is of the district all looks pretty bad for Jamaal Bowman. Smart money now is that he will be defeated by an AIPAC-backed corporate Democrat, quote unquote. So he pulled out all the stops here, had a rally in the Bronx, brought AOC out, brought Bernie Sanders out. Here is a little video that Jamaal Bowman and AOC dropped together to try and build some hype for the event backstage.
Up, everybody. We are just a few days out till the election day, our primary election on Tuesday, June 25th. But the good news is that the polls are open right now, and we are here for our brother, Jamaal Bowman. We want to turn out the vote. I don't care if you live in New York 16 and are turning out to vote for him. I don't care if you live outside New York 16. We are texting our friends. We are turning out. We are calling our friends in Tuckahoe, in White Plains, in New Rochelle, in Yonkers, and telling them to vote for Jamaal Bowman.
Ceasefire now, y'all. That's what we're doing.
Right.
Ceasefire now. Let's get it popping.
Right.
The polls are open today. The polls are open tomorrow. Make sure you get out to vote. Election day is Tuesday. Let's go. We need record turnout all across the district, especially in Yonkers, Mount Vernon, New Rochelle, Co-op City, and Edenwald. Let's get it popping. Let's change the world. It's the many versus the money. We're going to win.
Right.
Let's go, baby.
We're going to win. We're going to take on AIPAC, and we're going to kick some Wall Street ass. So let's go.
Stop the bombs.
There we go. All right. Well, I'm pumped.
My God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody else pumped here? I'm excited. I'm excited to see this footage.
Yeah, we're very psyched. We're very psyched.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the area behind a screened off fence that they kept them separated from the plebs in. You could not get to them after the rally. You could not approach them. You could not ask them questions. They were very well guarded and separated from the 500 to 1,000 schmucks who showed up for this thing. I will say, if it got to 1,000, it was very late in the rally, because you'll see, for even as you had AOC, Bowman, and Bernie, and none of them spoke long, which fair enough. It was brutal out there. Nobody would have wanted to listen to it anyway. They each spoke for about 10 minutes. So you'll see my pan. When I got there, as we'll get into later, I was going to meet up with Jose. And Jose texts me, all right, like, God hates me and Jamaal Bowman, or either or, probably both. The bus to go out to this park did not come. I had to take a city bike. The city bike got a flat tire. I had to change the city bike. By the time I'm getting there, I get a text from Jose. They're not letting me in. I call him. I'm like, what do you mean they're not letting you in? He's like, yeah, they're not letting me in. Do you believe that? I was like, yo, man, yeah. I would have been surprised if they did. Like Heaton said, he's got dressed like a rabbi now or something.
Yeah. Gotta get the sunglasses and the hat and the COVID mask and everything. Gotta have that full getup.
So yeah, I was like, yo, man, don't acknowledge me. I'm gonna try to get in. So I wasn't on the press list. But I was like, yeah, I mean, it's true. I looked to see how I would apply to get on, and there was no place. So he took me over with the director, and I was able to go through my Facebook and pull up the pictures from back in the day where I campaigned for AOC. So I showed her those. She gave me the press pass. So I got in, but yeah, they did. We'll see that later. Jose was not allowed in. They really should have let him in to try to beef up that crowd.
Yeah,
I would think they would have wanted everyone they could get, even protesters. At least they're people,
Well, we'll get into Jose. We'll get into that later because we have a whole B segment planned on that. But right now, let's take a look at this rally footage. This was Russell's footage.
Okay, a couple of things you should know before you watch this video. Okay, so I had fun with the memeing on this, so enjoy. I decided not to do a straight rally video. Partly because I started out to do a straight rally video, and I was getting so angry watching these hypocrites spouting these platitudes. I just had to comment on it in meme. The other thing to keep in mind is, all right, the interview stuff at the end, the sound is going to be very all over the place there. This is why. I ordered a wireless mic. Okay, you ever wonder why in this day and age they still use these? The news reporters still have the handheld mic. It's the best thing for these situations. It just is. There is no better technology. Problem is, you would think there would be a wide variety of that kind of microphone for iPhone. There is not. And once you think about it, it makes sense. Who the fuck needs that? How many people really need a handheld interview mic that's compatible with an iPhone? So it's very hard to find one. I just ordered a new one, so I didn't have one, so the sound on that sucks. So my apologies. Watch your ears. My stuff's going to be loud. The other people are going to drop. It's a mess, but I did what I could.
All righty. Well, we're going to full screen this and play this. This is Russell's footage from the Bernie Bowman and AOC rally. It's about 18 minutes, and we'll be back to talk about it after it's done.
As you can see, there's nobody here.
I told them 100 times to put Spinal Tap first and Puppet Show last. Right.
So, yeah, man, that's what happens when you fuck over your supporters. Nobody comes. Nobody comes when you call. You remember Bernie used to be able to get thousands of people out a few years ago, man. Filled Astoria Park, filled Washington Square Park. Nothing. Look at this. I am showing you, there is nobody here. For Bernie, for Bowman, for AOC, nobody's here.
talk to us about the role that anti-Semitism is playing in America right now and that present snapshot?
Look, we knew that we were facing a crisis of anti-Semitism long before October 7th. Rising hate crimes, a cycle of violence, including, as Stacey noted, the deadliest day for the Jews in U.S. history in Pittsburgh in 2018. And then on October 7th, we witnessed the deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust in Israel.
And there is a reason why 2 years later after that rally, the youngest woman in American history was elected to Congress. And there is a reason why she was a Puerto Rican waitress from the Bronx. There is a reason that this borough sent me to Congress.
Is that the CIA or something? Are you interested?
We know political intimidation. We know hardship. We know all of the reasons why we should not succeed, and yet we do anyway.
Being present, because it didn't really satisfy anyone. The supporters of Israel are mad at you for not voting for it. Critics of Israel are mad at you for not voting against it. Do you regret that?
You know, it is something that I weigh, because there's always the macro and then there's the micro. And in the macro of narrative, of politics, of national impact, you know, I probably should have just gone with my value. But in the macro, which would be to vote no, but in the micro, I do believe that this created a window in our community to be able to bring all folks to the table.
What? What the fuck? Wall Street and big real estate companies don't care if we can afford a home. They care if they can uproot and uphold the people who prevent and uphold that system that keeps us from affording a home in the first place.
Breaking news. Congressmember Nancy Pelosi is up 23% on her NVIDIA call options, and NVIDIA stock just hit all-time highs. And Nancy Pelosi's NVIDIA call options have made her nearly $500,000 in under 2 months, more than double her annual salary of $223,000.
Should members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to the second one.
Why should they be banned?
Because this is a free market and people... We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that. Yes, ma'am.
You know, Nancy Pelosi, that's Mama Bear of the Democratic Party. You don't have to.
We are in the South Bronx. This is the birthplace of hip-hop. I am the hip-hop congressman.
In the African piece, it was like this, but in hip-hop, it's like this. See, there's a difference.
South Bronx! South Bronx! We are gonna show fucking APAC.
Oh, the language on you.
The power of the motherfucking South Bronx.
You blow your father with that mouth?
People ask me why I got a foul mouth. What am I supposed to do? You coming after me. You coming after my family.
In my bedroom where my wife sleeps.
You coming after my children. I'm not supposed to fight back. I'm not supposed to fight back. We're gonna show them who the fuck we are.
Watch your profanity.
And so, I know it's hot. That's why I came up here to work really hard to show you I'm hot too. And I'm with you. We're in solidarity. Solidarity, yo. And so, this is great. This is great. But after this, we are getting on a bus to go knock doors. There is air conditioning on the bus. There is water on the bus.
Don't get on that ship to serve men. It's a cookbook.
And Bernie is ready to go. So before I go,
In every scam, no matter how sophisticated or how amateur, there are two red flags.
Now let me tell you why I am here today.
The first red flag is at some point I'm going to ask you to give me money. And the money has to be immediately. You have to give me a credit card right now on the phone. You have to give me a bank account number.
$27.
I think it's the best $27 you could spend.
It's the average donation given to Bernie Sanders.
$27.
To make college tuition free.
For better care of our veterans.
For women's rights.
For health care for all.
To make Wall Street corporations pay their fair share.
To keep us out of unnecessary wars.
To ensure a living wage.
To get big money out of politics.
For the poor.
For the marginalized.
For the rich.
For all of us.
Give 27 to transform America.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
This election is about whether or not the billionaire class and the oligarchs will control the United States government, and our view is no, they won't.
This is beginning to feel like deja vu all over again.
Jamaal also understands that what's going on in Gaza today is totally unacceptable.
A few moments later.
Israel had the right to defend itself against a terrorist attack. Today in Gaza, kids have no electricity. And what's going on right now, because of the blockage of humanitarian aid, thousands and thousands of children are dealing with malnutrition and face starvation. That is not what the American people want. That is not what Democrats want.
The view of Palestinians is simple. Well, the Europeans treated the Jews badly, culminating in the Holocaust, and they gave them our land as compensation. Of course, we say it's our land. The Torah says it. But they don't believe in the Torah. So, that's the reason there is not peace. They invent other reasons, but they do not believe in a Jewish state. And that is why we in America must stand strong with Israel through thick and thin. We must, because that is the reason, not any of these other false shibboleths, why there is not peace in the Middle East.
I just want to tell the next disruptor, I am a Zionist. I always have been and always will be. And so no amount of harassment or intimidation or bullying is ever going to dissuade me from thinking what is right, and I'm going to support the U.S.-Israel relationship.
There's got to be a ceasefire now. There's got to be humanitarian aid coming in. Hostages must be freed. And we need peace in that area, a two-state solution.
Look, the two-state solution that people talk about is basically would be the greatest reward for the terrorist that you can imagine.
The key point of this campaign is whether billionaires are able to buy election. On that issue, every person who votes for the Democratic Party has got to be united. We stand together against oligarchy.
Hillary Clinton will make an outstanding president, and I am proud to stand with her today. Thank you all very much.
So in the next 4 days, do everything you can. Knock on doors, get on the phone. Let us have a great voter turnout. Let's show the billionaire class they cannot defeat us. Let's win this election. Thank you all.
I am asking all Americans, I'm asking every Democrat, I'm asking every independent, I'm asking a lot of Republicans to come together in this campaign to support your candidacy, which I endorse.
Is there anywhere that they'll be doing a Q&A, answering any questions from the press? So they skedaddled out. There was absolutely no way to ask them any questions, believe me. I tried to get to them. It was totally impossible. So that was it, you know, the billionaires, blah, 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 blah. You probably heard the song before. We're going to take on the billionaires. Nothing about Hillary Clinton endorsing Latimer, of course. I'm not going to mention that. So I guess I'll just ask people some questions now, and we'll air that on the show tomorrow. Why do you think Hillary endorsed Latimer?
Oh, because that's what she does. she's a conservative Democrat, you know. She goes along to get along. It doesn't surprise me.
So what do you think about it? No idea? All right, I have a theory. So she endorsed Bill Clinton. She endorsed Andrew Cuomo. Both ended up being accused of sexual assault of women. Can Latimer be far behind?
Oh, I don't know.
You think maybe that's her kink?
Who knows?
Why do you think Hillary Clinton endorsed Latimer?
I don't know that much about Hillary Clinton because I regard her as a sort of an institutional candidate that was not interesting for me in my politics. So I don't follow her at all. So I have no idea why she endorsed her. Unless maybe she accepts AIPAC endorsements. That's likely. And we're putting our finger. I'm mainly interested in peace everywhere, and particularly immediately in the Middle East, and I think AIPAC has made it clear that they're interested in prosecuting the war according to the interests of the Netanyahu administration, which is an intolerable right-wing administration. You know, the state of Israel is fine, but it's a bad expression of their political will to have him in charge. So I see these things nested together. But I don't know anything about Hillary Clinton, so I don't know why she said that.
All right, well, Jamaal in his speech talked a lot about AIPAC, but isn't he running against the Democratic Party, which is basically owned by AIPAC along with the Republicans?
No, he's not running against the Democratic Party. He's running within the Democratic Party. AIPAC is the outside force. And they represent MAGA Republicans. They represent anti-choice Republicans.
Don't they represent Democrats?
No.
They don't represent Chuck Schumer?
No. Chuck Schumer may have taken money from him, and that's to his discredit.
What about Richie Torres?
Richie Torres should be primaried by someone from the left and defeated.
Well, he's being primaried by Jose Vega as an independent. Should Jamaal Bowman run as an independent if Latimer wins?
No, the Democratic Party does not belong to AIPAC. It's a right-wing interest. I got to go.
All right. Hey, Russell Dobular, Do Dissidents. Can I ask you a couple questions? No? No? It's a strange way to campaign. None of AOC's people want to talk about her. I'm just going to say, it is pretty fucking weird, man. You go to the MAGA people, they're ready to talk to you. They'll explain why.
Canvassing for AOC.
But they will not talk about AOC.
Canvassing for AOC.
Why do you think the crowd is so small relative to what used to come out for him?
Well, Bernie's not running for president. It's not really
True.
that day.
True.
This is the Bronx, where there's you don't see as much political activism, and all those factors. It's a Saturday. I don't know. I was at the Queens rally. It was enormous. You're absolutely right.
Okay. Now, listening to a speech, which was very impassioned, there was nothing there to really disagree with. He's talking about AIPAC, but he's not talking about the Democrats that are owned by AIPAC. Right? I mean, Hillary Clinton's running against him.
Well, Bernie said all Democrats should reject that money. That's what I believe, too. They are compromised, but, it depends on the contours of the race. Like, if you have Mondaire Jones against Mike Ronald, they're both taking AIPAC money.
Sure,
so
yeah, right.
You have to just try to compete. And Mondaire has changed his tune on a number of different issues, and his emphasis on a number of different issues, because otherwise, how are you going to win? There's a Hasidic bloc vote in Rockland County,
Well, same in Bowman's County. It's a very Zionist county.
I don't know about Zionists. I know there's a large Jewish population, but I mean, you have the ultra-Orthodox that, I don't know if you know anything about New York 17, but the rabbis are courted by like John Boehner and Bill Clinton at the end of every election. Please, can we have can you have our blessing? Because they vote in lockstep with the religious leaders.
All right, so if Latimer wins, would you support Bowman as an independent candidate?
Would I vote for Bowman? Well, yeah, there's no Republican competition.
There we go. All right. Round of applause for Russell in the chat. That was a nice 18-minute piece there on the rally and the crowd on the speeches. So you got a sense of the speeches themselves and obviously the audience, which, I mean, it's tough to say from what we saw there. That didn't look like 1,000, maybe 500. I think they were claiming about 500.
That's what I think. Like, I don't want, I want to be honest. I don't want to lowball them, or have any kind of bias. It didn't seem like more than 500 to me.
No, that looked like 500 tops, at its peak. And in terms of crowd size, I mean, you could compare that. The obvious comparison to a crowd like that is, the crowd size at the Bernie rallies in 2016. And in 2020, the guy there mentioned he was at the Queens rally with AOC in 2020. That was the first back on the campaign trail since he had that heart scare where he was out for a month and they had about 30,000 show up. So, yeah, I mean, he had huge crowds in both of those runs. So you can obviously compare a very, very weak turnout here to those rallies. But I think just as relevant and perhaps even a more important thing to point out when you contrast these tiny crowd sizes with what they were used with what they used to get is the fact that over the past 9 months, you have had hundreds of thousands, literally, if not a million. You probably, if you add up all the protest actions in New York City over the past 9 months, I'm sure over 1 million people have hit the streets in New York City since October of last year. Look at how many people come out to protest against the Israel war, and almost none of them showed up to this. Like, if you were actually doing your job, repping the Palestinian cause, then why didn't any of those protesters who have been flooding the streets in Manhattan on a weekly basis, there's been more than one action a week, every week for the last 9 months, hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million people have turned out to those when you add all of them up, and you can't get more than a few hundred out for you. This is why. That's why. It's because you're not doing your job. Those hundreds of thousands of people who have been protesting in the streets, none of them, virtually none of them, were interested in coming to your rally. That's why Bowman is bound to lose.
Well, because in spite of the rumors, people actually, in my experience, are not stupid. That's the essence of the theory behind democracy, the wisdom of crowds. And as a rule, the wisdom of crowds does hold up. Statisticians, is that how you say that?
Statisticians?
I
think that's it.
You know the thing. You know the thing. They've done studies on this, that collectively people will tend to be able to make predictions pretty accurately. That's the idea behind the gambling site Predict It, that people can collectively kind of call things together. But when you have a system that's not working democratically, that lever towards sensible decisions is no longer there, and people know that, and they stop getting involved in politics, which is a completely rational decision. Why would you waste your time? The excitement around Bernie, the excitement around AOC and the squad at that time was, here are these people who are challenging this hated establishment from the left. Here's AOC camping out with the protesters in Pelosi's office, Pelosi is trash talking her to her fellow refugee from the cast of 101 Dalmatians, Maureen Dowd, just bitching about her in the pages of the New York Times. It felt like here's a real challenge to power. You had AOC saying all the right things, right? Hey, if I'm only a one-term congresswoman, then fine, it'll be worth it. And of course, I mean, Bernie, it goes without saying, he told people he's fighting for a revolution. Now, if he had run under the slogan, a little sprucing up, that would have been fair. I don't think people would be so angry. Bernie, a little sprucing up.
Right.
But that's not how he ran. He ran Bernie revolution. And he never intended that because, as we know, who was that? Michael Tracy who reported that he said he didn't want to end up like Nader. So, okay, if you came into that whole process saying you didn't want to end up like Nader, then you know what? You shouldn't have done it at all. You should have shut the fuck up, man. Because all those people, that's why I cut that in, man. You remember people giving $27. A lot of people who couldn't afford to do that. Look at Nick, man. Nick quit his job. He talks about that all the time. Nick at RBN, he quit his job to go out there for Bernie. You're playing with people's lives. You don't use that kind of language if you don't mean it. Now when you watch them playing their greatest hits, although now it's interesting, what was exciting a few years ago is they would attack Nancy Pelosi directly. They would say things like that directly. They don't anymore. If you notice, they wouldn't even mention Hillary Clinton. She's not even in office. She's not even run. She'll never run for office again. And they still will not mention the fucking name of the person who endorsed your opponent. They will not mention Chuck Schumer, as we saw in the clip, dismissing people who don't believe in the Torah. They won't talk about that. They won't talk about Richie Torres. They're right. Aren't they in his district? I believe this park, because Jose said that.
Yes.
They are,
Yeah,
they are literally in Richie Torres's district. People are not stupid. They pick up on these things. People who are serious about the cause of Palestine, who are serious about being anti-genocide, they don't have time and money to waste on these fucking clowns. Seeing Bernie going up there and talking about the billionaires and the oligarch, I mean, that's really, he's in his fat Elvis phase, man. That's Elvis in Vegas in 77 singing Heartbreak Hotel.
Right.
Like what are you even talking about? It's amazing that he's still going up there and talking that shit as if anybody is going to take him seriously. And that's why nobody's there. It was very exciting when you thought they meant it. Now most people realize they never meant it. And when you look at who actually showed up at this thing, and you could see my footage, very, very, very white crowd, which they wanted to make a big thing out of that with Trump. And his crowd was not nearly as lily white as that crowd was. That was a white ass fucking crowd. These are people who perceive politics as celebrity. These are the last people who would be excited to see Bernie. Like, there was that reaction around me as I was filming when he came on stage. They were very excited to see Bernie.
I mean, the people that you interviewed too were very timid, as are the squad, as is Bernie himself, about indicting the Democratic Party along with George Latimer, along with AIPAC, right?
Right.
They just resist that formulation.
Not even Hillary Clinton.
Right.
She endorsed your fucking opponent.
Yeah. No, they just completely reject that the party is irredeemable. And that's what became apparent to people like us, on their own timeline.
Most people.
Of course, yeah.
That's why nobody's there.
I stuck around longer than I should have. To me, it was the Build Back Better thing that really proved to me that it was done, that there was no hope. That was way later than it should have been. I admit that. Like, I'll take that L. But almost everyone in this chat, in this audience, and who sort of swims in these circles now, came to that realization at some point The people who are still out here acting as if this is a real battle to be fought and won right now. I mean, it is just a completely different world. And, one of the things that Russell told me on the phone was that, when Russ goes to a Free Assange event or a Free Palestine event or any kind of like anti-war protest, in New York or even in London, he gets recognized by people who know who he is. At this rally, didn't get recognized.
Nope.
Nobody knew who he was.
I got recognized on the way there by a random person on the street.
By a random guy who wasn't going. But in the rally, yeah, no one knew. And this was our movement, quote unquote, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? This is where we would have pulled audience from at one time. Now you go there, no one even knows who you are.
No. But, okay, the guy interviewed at the end, there was another guy who was off camera, and we talked a little after I shut the camera off. They knew who Brianna Joy Gray was. One of the guys was like, hang on, was Brianna Joy Gray on your show? I was like, no, we were on our show. So then he put it together. He recognized me from us being on Brianna's show.
Interesting. Wow. Look at that. So yeah, that was the rally. It was quite the bust of a rally. Less than 1,000 turnout, which if you compare that to the protests going on this year and certainly to the crowds that Bernie and AOC were capable of drawing years ago.
How pathetic is that? Pathetic is that? Because you've got a moment where people are in the streets. There's a movement. There's a protest movement going on. And
AIPAC is coming for you, and you can't get a crowd.
And you can't get these people to come out for you because they can see you're full of shit. It's so obvious by what you omit. You omit. And now, if you went back to talking that, you have no credibility now. You burned people too much. I mean, that's why I cut that in with the Iron Dome. Because, anyone can give a speech. And even rhetorically, you will not mention Hillary Clinton. Rhetorically, you will not mention that Hillary Clinton endorsed Latimer. You will not mention this framing. And you got that from the Jews for Jamaal guy that I interviewed after the rally, saying no, the Democrats are not owned by AIPAC. AIPAC is the outside force. No, they're not right-wing interest on the Democratic Party. What are you talking about? I as deep as your head might be in the Kool-Aid, how could you not understand that AIPAC owns both parties? How could you think that most Democrats are not owned by AIPAC?
Yeah, no, it's just that's the crowd that's there. That is that crowd, and that's why it's a small one. It's a small one because you're dealing with the last people to wake up to what's obvious and right in front of their face.
It's the last of them, and that's why I say politics is celebrity for them, because they were very excited about being in the presence of famous people. And I think for those people, it's not about politics, because how can it be? We just dropped the clip of that poor man who dropped that video about supporting his family, and somebody in the comments said, "No, the answer isn't to take down the system." I guess I said that at some point in the video. It's to improve it. Okay, all right. How do you improve this system when this is actually as good as it gets? If you step back, they're actually the best there are. These are the best there are. They're saying ceasefire and what? Two-state solution? Oh, very brave, Bernie. Very brave. Two-state solution that Israel has been using to yank the world's chain for decades while they take more and more land and put more and more settlements into the West Bank. That's as good as it gets. Yes, the system needs to be taken down.
Plus an endorsement of Joe Biden at the end of the day, which is what these guys are all doing.
Right. Yeah. In the end, they're endorsing the person who is funding and sending weapons to facilitate this genocide. Why would anyone come and support? How could anyone who supports the cause come and support you when you are uncritically and without condition endorsing Joe Biden? And that's as good as it gets. That's as good as it gets. That's why the system needs to be taken down entirely. That's why the system can't be fixed. We tried that. And two of the people you saw on that stage are the reason that most of the people who tried that are done. They've either become completely apathetic and walked away, or they've become radicalized, as is the case here.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Debs Mo, thanks for becoming a member. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for that. That's kind of you. Go Oilers. Hockey game coming up later. I think there's I think the finals. Is this the finals? Are they on the finals? They must be because it's late June, right? Le Senora Chamonix. I have content, guys, and I like yous. I am Chamonix. Well, hi, Chamonix. Thank you very much.
Hello.
For being here.
Are you from this planet? Because that sounded very otherworldly.
Yeah. I have content, and I like yous. Derek P., thanks for the $5. Heatwave didn't stop the Mermaid Parade this Saturday in Coney. Come out for the hot dog eating contest on the 4th. Oh, the hot dog eating contest is a different thing. Maybe Norm can cover that. That would be fun.
If we could have gotten Norm, we would have done that instead of the rally. It was one or the other.
Actually, no, Norm interviewing the hot dog eaters would be funny, too.
That might actually be funnier.
He might be offended by that, though. Isn't he a vegetarian? He probably doesn't like the hot dog.
He is a vegan.
Yeah.
He is a vegan.
That is debauchery. I will not. I do not condone such debauchery.
How many anuses of rodents do you think you have devoured today, sir?
Exactly. Yeah. Guys, I'm going to need some moral support. Jamaal Bowman's about to go down. Why? APAC, why? Why not AOC too? Thank you, His Highness. Appreciate that. EJ, imagine great intercutting with memes. Russell, thank you, EJ. Eileen, appreciate that.
Thank you. I sat down to do a nice, easy video, and I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
As soon as I dropped in the Spinal Tap thing, it was off to the races.
Off to the races. Let's see here. His Highness. Yep, we got that super chat. Apparently, hey, His Highness, you watch every show. Do you want to be a mod on Rumble? We can make you a mod. Apparently, we had no mods, so Jake went into Rumble to get some of the bots out. But we're on that. But His Highness, let me know if you want to be a mod. We'll make you a mod because you seem to watch just about every one of these. All right, let's see here. LOL must be a sign of success that political groups think it's worth bothering your chat. Congrats on your growth, especially on Rumble. I didn't know there were any DSA trolls on Rumble. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
We had DSA trolls over there?
Maybe.
Today?
I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine. Who else would have a problem with that? Yes, hockey fans, Game 7, Stanley Cup, 8 p.m. in Florida, Panthers versus Oilers. Who's your pick? There you go. It is the finals. See, I guess that. Great, fellas. Great work, fellas. Thanks, Sparky. Keep on trucking. You keep on trucking, Sparky. Thank you very much. Michael Castillo, you guys are amazing as always. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Thin crowds when you don't deliver. That's right. That's right, Barry Anderson. Exactly right. Not bloody likely. The old world is dying and the new struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. Antonio Gramsci, love you guys. Thank you for that generous donation. Not bloody likely. Appreciate that. Prototypically cringeworthy, says Sparky. Christ is king, says Sparky. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on. We have been talking about the Jamaal Bowman AOC Bernie Sanders rally this past Saturday, June 22nd. Now, the primary in question is in New York's 16th district, but ironically, the rally took place in St. Mary's Park in the Bronx, which just so happens to be located in the 15th congressional district, which is currently being represented by ultra-Zionist AIPAC darling Richie Torres. And there is no Democratic primary in that district. Richie Torres gets a free ride to the nomination, so our friend Jose Vega is doing the noble feat of trying to unseat him as an independent. So he brought some campaign literature to the event, being that this is his district after all. It's his turf. It's not AOC's turf. It's not Jamaal Bowman's turf. This is the 15th district. And since there's an AIPAC stooge representing the 15th district, you would think a guy there to campaign against the AIPAC stooge might be welcome. It's an anti-AIPAC crowd, is it not? Well, no, he was not. Here is Jose trying to get in to the rally and being stopped. Huge shout out to our friend Big Mad Crab, Follow him on X at Big Mad Crab for getting this footage. Crab really saved the day here because this day was kind of a comedy of errors in a lot of ways between the rainstorm and Jose not getting in and the phone overheating.
My fucking city bike got a flat tire.
And the flat tire.
The bus never came.
Yes, this was a Murphy's Law kind of everything that can go wrong will go wrong kind of day. So good on Big Mad Crab for saving the day with this footage. Here's Jose trying to get in, being turned down, and then he goes to one of the AOC staffers / volunteers. We don't know who this guy is because he doesn't say anything, trying to get some sort of explanation why he can't come in. So here's this footage here, courtesy of the Crab Man.
Sorry, what? Wait, why am I not allowed in? Wait, why am I not allowed in? No. What? Hey, why don't you come and explain to me why I'm not allowed in? You guys, do me a favor. Are you fucking step over to the side, please? I'm not allowed in? Protesting APAC, and I'm not allowed in? You know why the fuck Bowman's gonna lose right now, and AOC and all these other fucking sellouts? Because of you guys can't break out of your own damn axioms. Why am I not allowed to be let in? You really want to start a problem with not letting us in? Behind you. Yo, do me a favor, you gotta be fucking the thing. Why? Hello?
No answer.
They were personally invited by Jamaal Bowman, and our campaign director was told to come here.
No, he just said we were personally invited by Jamaal Bowman, and our campaign director was told to come here today. He went to the Bowman rally to hand out his literature the previous day at Hastings-on-Hudson, doing some anti-APAC organizing and recruitment for his campaign. He was signing up volunteers, which apparently he was fairly successful at doing because I've been talking to Jose over the weekend. But he's saying, hey, look, like, I'm here to organize against APAC. You're not letting me in to this ostensibly anti-APAC rally. And look, no response whatsoever.
Are you fucking kidding me? Is this a joke? You see this?
What is this really about? What is this really about?
What about stopping APAC? I'm very serious. So you're not going to let us in?
Hey man, listen, if you want to have your own little bubble with all your little friends, but you're not going to defeat APAC like this. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't happen like this.
Absolutely fucking ridiculous.
That's fucking crazy, man. You really?
Okay. Have a good rally.
You can't say anything? You can't say anything about it.
The guy was right, man. You are a junior fucking organizer.
That's the Democracy Party, everybody. No answer. No answer.
Well, not only that. As you saw, they wouldn't answer any questions after the rally.
No.
They wouldn't mix with press. I wasn't the only press there. They wouldn't mix with press.
No answer why he was not permitted onto the grounds of the rally there. Which, hey, good news is at least they know who you are, right? Better they know who you are than that they don't know who you are. And as you'll see in this thing here, Jose wasn't even wearing any flair. It was just the paperwork that they saw.
I assumed it was flair that got them stopped. But yeah.
No, it was the literature.
Yeah.
It was the literature. And the reason Crab knew to turn the camera on, because Crab told me, he said the reason I knew to film that is because we were about third in line, and one of our people with the campaign got turned away, and they heard one of the guys say, no one with Vega materials is allowed in. So then he kind of knew they were going to give him a hard time, so he turned the camera on in case he could capture a moment, and he did. Now here's Jose after getting turned away. He put this video up on X.
Bowman, Bernie, rally. So I've just been kicked out of the AOC Bowman, Bernie rally. No surprise, of course. Let's be honest about why they actually kicked me out, though. See, they're spending $25 million, they being AIPAC, against Jamaal Bowman in his district. Is that because Jamaal Bowman is some great congressman who decided to take a very brave stance against the genocide in Gaza? No. Of course not. He endorses Joe Biden, and he is a sellout, and he is completely incompetent. What this actually speaks to is the fact that the Democrat infrastructure of the left progressive wing, the Justice Democrats, the Democratic Socialists of America, has utterly failed. The infrastructure was always controlled opposition to keep these people controlled, so that the moment they step slightly out of line, they are destroyed. Look at the infrastructure. It's unable to fight back against $25 million of clear Israeli AIPAC money. There's a foreign country trying to buy our elections. And you know what they're even more afraid of? They're more afraid of the fact that our independent campaign, the Vega for Congress campaign that is running against Richie Torres, a truly independent campaign, can actually work without these infrastructure fraudulent organizations like DSA and Justice Democrats. We are actually doing something potent and truly free and independent. So I don't want to hear shit about me endorsing Bowman or AOC. Maybe people should focus their efforts on why this specific district is getting $25 million from AIPAC. Does it have to do with the fact that George Soros might live there? Does it have to do with the fact that Hillary Clinton might have some interest there? This is not about Jamaal Bowman. Jamaal Bowman is a fraud, just like AOC and Bernie, and all of these people will be forgotten to history. But we are building a coalition here in the Bronx, in our independent campaign against Richie Torres, that will be free of controlled opposition and can actually work. People should investigate right now. Why are they spending $25 million in that district? Take the things I told you, that George Soros lives in that district. Hillary Clinton has some special interest in there. And we need to figure out what is actually going on in that district. And if you want to work for our campaign, a campaign that's actually going to stand up against AIPAC and the special interests, not bend the will, and not tell our volunteers not to talk about genocide, as the Bowman volunteer coordinators have been telling their volunteers not to do. Yeah, that's a real thing. They told their volunteers not to mention genocide. I tell the truth. So vote Vega, work with my campaign, and donate.
So there you go. There's Jose doing what I'm sure he'd like to have done to perhaps Jamaal Bowman's face or Bernie Sanders' face if he got in there. No such luck, but he made the most of it. Like I said, this was a day of challenges, and, you know, he's been in the 16th district doing some organizing work, and he has been signing up volunteers for his campaign because it's a neighboring district. It's not his district, but if there's, you know, a primary there that is, let's face it, about really a referendum on AIPAC, that's what this race is sort of turning into. He saw that as an organizing opportunity. And there were some things that I saw him post that from a messaging standpoint I thought needed some work. And so we had those conversations on the phone. Just a note to some of you guys, like I said, I wasn't trying to ghost anybody, but there are certain conversations you don't have for public consumption on Twitter. That's why campaigns have advisors. I am not an official member of the campaign. I do not make a dime off the campaign. I'm not involved in any official capacity. I'm like Roger Stone to Jose. I'm Jose's Roger Stone, you know. I call him. I say, hey, you know, I think we could do this a little better. I think this could use a little change. And, you know, we talk. That's what we do. And so I won't get into all of that now. There are some specifics that I'm now freer to discuss on X with some of you guys if you want to. But one of the reasons why we kind of had to keep mum about this is because we knew this was happening, and we knew Jose was going to try to get in and maybe do an intervention, nonviolent, peaceful intervention, of course, like he does from time to time, or perhaps just organize for his campaign, because the ultimate irony of this is that this rally is in Jose's district. It's the 15th district. So if Jamaal Bowman and AOC and Bernie Sanders are about the movement, if the campaigns are about the movement, well, there's an AIPAC stooge representing St. Mary's Park, literally. And there's a guy there who's trying to unseat him, but he's not a Democrat. Oh, that's the problem, isn't it? He's not part of your club. He's not part of your team. He's not doing it the right way. You have to do it within the party, right? You have to mount a primary. One of the guys told Russell in the video, well, Richie Torres should be primaried from within the party. What about a guy who's running against him from outside of the party? No comment. That's how unserious this event is.
Well, and the guy at the end also, when I asked him if he would vote for Bowman if he ran as an independent, he said it was okay because the Republican doesn't have a chance.
Right.
It's a safe blue district, so sure.
Yeah,
it's not and he went on. I cut it. It's but in that vein, it's not a situation where like Trump and Biden, like it's a clown show. It's a clown show. And it's another example of why nobody's there. When I hear people like this say the word "the movement," it really makes me want to projectile vomit. The movement. Fucking movement. You're not part of any movement. You don't care about a movement. Do I think these people, when the lights are off, twirl their mustache and go, yeah? No, I think that they are people who have decided that being deeply, deeply, deeply morally compromised and taking all the toys and rewards of fame and status. And let's face it, I mean, we never liked to talk about it when we were supporting him. Well, Bernie does have those 2 houses. Yeah, he doesn't have that Pelosi money, but he's done all right. He's done all right. And hey, you justify that by saying, well, if I wasn't here, somebody worse than me would be in this seat. At least I'm trying. If I lose this seat, someone who's not trying will have this seat. And I think that's how they live with themselves. I think that's how they look at it.
Yeah, that is definitely true when you're in there. And, when you look back years ago on those movements, so, quote unquote, within the Democratic Party, look, that's why they say hindsight is 20/20. Right. I mean, it takes a learning experience to learn by definition. And so, these are the things that you come to realize. And most people have, which is why this crowd size was so small. But the ultimate, I can't think of anything that clearer demonstrates how the quote unquote movement comes second to team sports. Then you're literally in the 15th district. There's a guy running against one of the biggest 8-pack whores in Congress who represents the 15th district, but he's not allowed to get in there and organize because of the paperwork. The paperwork, right? Now, whether or not Jose was going to protest there, that was an open thing. We talked about it, and he said, there's a good chance I will, but a good chance I won't, because if I'm in there signing people up to volunteer for my campaign, if I'm out in there building a team, which you might be able to, theoretically at least, then maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would. But the point is, they didn't let him in based on the literature. Based on the literature that he was handing out. No, Vega, not allowed in. No one with Vega is allowed in.
Yeah, which honestly, Jose, he's probably watching. If he's not watching, he'll watch it later.
He's watching.
Come on, man. We're both from the neighborhood, man. What were you thinking bringing that fucking literature? Come on, man. You don't know how to bullshit and get in places and lie and come on.
Well, they
man.
gotta bring. You gotta bring the stuff. Crab got in, put it under his shirt. He put it under his shirt. He eventually got
dude,
in.
What are you? Yeah. Come on, what are you doing, man? You're too good-hearted. You gotta you gotta get a little devil in you, kid.
Yeah, see, this is Jose. Keaton is lying. He is my consigliere. That's Jose. That's declaring independence. Yes.
Yeah, man. Come on. How did I get in? I was like, now I'm a big AOC person. And I showed him pictures from 6 years ago.
But when you say got in, you had a press pass, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're going to let you in as press. That's not automatic. I wasn't on the list.
Right,
they have a press list.
They have a press list, but if you went in without a press pass, they weren't going to say anything. They weren't interviewing people on a case-by-case basis.
No, they were. No, I mean the press pass gets you access to the press stand, which I don't really use. So basically, yeah, you're right. Like I got in earlier, so I was right in the front.
It'd have been easier for you to just get in as a civilian without the press pass, probably, because they wouldn't ask you any questions, right?
No, well then there's a line.
Oh, so you got in past the line.
Yeah. There's a separate press entrance. You can use the press.
How long could the line have possibly been? There were 200. When you got there, there were like 50 people there.
No, it's true. I mean, I didn't really look because I was like, man, I can't get into that. Fuck it, because the whole Jose situation was going on. Like, I heard the yelling and stuff. Like, Jose was given like some kind of speech. I heard him when I walked in, and I was just like, I don't know those people. So, but yeah, in that particular case, you're right. I mean, I did have like the best spot I could have.
Right.
But when you're talking about the guys who are just, they're not there, they're not activists, they're just guns for hire with a camera. There's a platform at these things.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And that's where they go. And they set up their camera where they know no one's going to steal it because it's up on the press stand.
Right.
And they leave.
Right.
They fuck off until there's something interesting to film. And then they come back. All those people came back when AOC hit the stage.
Right.
Basically, they're just pissed off, and because it's a job for them. They don't care.
Yeah, as long as the equipment's safe and it's rolling, you can just go hang out.
Right. Which you're gonna know I've become jaded when I start going to the press platform instead of jamming myself into the front of the to get these on the spot kind of shots that nobody else has.
Yeah. When you decide, oh, we'll just mount the camera here and the hell with it. Right. Yep. That's when it's a job.
Just turning the camera on. Call me when the rally's over.
Exactly. Jake, why don't we hit our patron scroll here? It is that time of night where we pause for a word from our sponsors. If you want to sign up and become a member of this program, the best way to do so is to go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to DoDissidents.substack.com, or you can join our locals at DoDissidents.locals.com. If you're watching on Rumble right now, 1,132 strong in the Rumble chat, you can click that bright red join button underneath the screen. That takes you to our locals. Everybody else, you can go to locals, Patreon, or Substack. That gets you your name up in lights here on the scroll. Notice a lot of new names added since we had Jake work on the automation and the manual addition. So we should have just about everybody on here now. As you can see, quite a few names have been added since we had Jake work on that this week. Round of applause for Jake in the chat. But you get your name up in lights here. You get call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday night, which is, of course, coming up after the conclusion of this program tonight, being that it is, in fact, Sunday. And you also get access to 2 supporter streams per month. Those are 2 subscriber-exclusive live streams. Those are interactive live streams where you get call-in access. We are doing one tomorrow night at 8 p.m. That's right, just about 24 hours from now. So the way that works is if you sign up to become a supporter, you will get an email during the day with the time and link to log in and or call in to the supporter stream. Supporter stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We have a busy schedule this week. Obviously, we are doing a supporter stream tomorrow. We are also going to be live streaming the debate as a Rumble exclusive stream. That'll be on Thursday night. I believe the debate's at 9 o'clock. I'm not exactly sure. We will check that, and we will announce that formally on Tuesday. We obviously are on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So if you're a patron, you're going to see us 5 days in a row: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Very busy week. So sign up and support the show. It really does help us out tremendously. It helps censor-proof the operation.
Don't forget the picture, man.
Yep, I'm getting to that. So we also want to give a shout out to our friend Dr. Nick Riviera, who received his skull and sent Russell this picture of the skull.
I decided to send my cat too. I'm amazed that he survived.
Yeah. That is a great cat. It's a great looking cat. I love black cats.
That is a very good looking cat.
Black cats are cool. Yeah, cool.
That
with
is,
those
of
big
course,
yellow
Dr.
eyes.
Nick's cat. Very beautiful cat.
Yeah. He's got a healthy coat. Look at that shine on that coat. Excellent. Yep. So thank you, Nick, for sending that to us. Appreciate that, and hope you are enjoying the skull there. Let's see here. Mosaic, thanks for the $4.99. Been a while, lads, but so glad to see all your success. Well, thank you. Don't burn yourselves out, and please keep calling out the PMC commentary class only when needed, of course. So I guess we should probably announce this, speaking of burning ourselves out. So as most of you know, I have a baby coming in July. His due date is the 24th of July, but he could come at any time. He is big enough, he is viable, and he is getting restless. So what we are going to do for the month of July, really to serve as my sort of leave schedule. We are going to go to 3 live streams per week and supplement those live streams with some pre-recorded content. Because when the baby comes, I'm going to have to take a couple weeks off entirely. Russell will have to steer the ship entirely. And then I'm going to be on a limited schedule in the coming months. It's going to be hard for me to do night shows at first, but basically I'm going to be on a limited schedule for the next few months starting in July. And so, Russ, it cannot be expected to put together 4 streams per week. So we're going to go to 3 streams per week, while I'm on my sort of paternity leave period. And we'll be supplementing that with pre-recorded interviews and some pre-recorded segments and video essays and article readings and things like that. So we will definitely populate the channel. There will not be a lack of content, but there will be 1 fewer stream per week starting next month.
And many of you have asked if I was going to do a segment on the Acolyte. So I am currently working on my first video essay since Wednesday, which was probably like 2 years ago, right? It was like 2 years ago that I did that.
Yeah.
So I am doing an overall, because I just want to address the whole subject at once. I am doing a Star Wars video essay that will deal with the Acolyte thing, but also all the controversies around Star Wars over the last 30 years. So something nice and nerdy for the nerds who keep asking about the Acolyte. We will on Wednesday, though, actually do that James O'Keefe Disney leak.
That's right. That's right. People are asking, is it a girl or a boy? It's a boy. Third boy.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. Indeed. Third baby boy. So that's going to be the upcoming schedule starting next month. Sparky, Allies gave the part of Germany where Werner von Braun was born to Poland. Why couldn't they give part of Germany to the Jews? Of course, yes, they should have. That's what we say all the time.
Yeah,
made the most sense. Looks like their rally may have been whiter than a Klan rally. Yeah, it was a big lot of whites at that rally. Whiter than the Trump rally, oddly enough. NYC is so densely populated, it's almost difficult not to draw a crowd. Well, yeah, especially as both of us said, like there's all this ceasefire activism. There's all this free Palestine activism, and you couldn't bring any of that into your rally. That shows you how hard you failed. Nothing can show it any better than that. If it makes you feel any safer or better, Joe Biden is by far the most competent person in his administration. Yes, thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. Hey, Landrew is here. Let's give a sound drop to Landrew for joining at the simp level of membership, which is the highest tier of membership. That's good for a sound drop right there. Landrew, thank you very much. That is very kind of you. Appreciate that.
Landrew is dead.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you very much. Okay.
Thank you, Landrew.
Thank you, Landrew. Indeed. That was great. I'm trying to drag out my viewing of your shows to last me over the weekend, but I watched them too quick and then I have to wait for days. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
So yeah, as Keaton was mentioning, when we are going to do probably more content without the Wednesday show. We're going to line up a lot more interviews, especially now with the pre-recording policy.
Yeah, we have a much freer schedule regarding that. So we'll be premiering long form interviews. We'll be dropping different clips of the video of the interviews like we always do. So yeah, it'll probably end up being more content, not less. But that'll be starting in July. So starting in July, we're going to go to a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Sunday at 7, Tuesday at 2, and then the Thursday morning show will remain where it's at. Topher, thanks for the $1. Bernie is just like Cornell, waste of time and money. Thank you. Like that, afraid of getting nadered, they got neutered instead. Great reporting, Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Durkin. Appreciate that very much. Were many of the attendees paid attendees? Well, there were certainly a lot of staff there. Certainly seemed like there were a lot
of the people you saw that were staff. That we haven't even touched on. Out of that 500 people, yeah, at least 75 had to be affiliated with the campaign or DSA, or we're not just there as civilians.
Right, exactly. David Santucci, thanks for the $20. Just as Democrats equals just us Democrats. Yes, thank you, David Santucci. Appreciate that very much. All right, let's go on. We got some more segments to do on the night. This is a pretty big development here. This was something that caught my eye. Teamsters leader lands speaking slot at Republican convention at GOP convention, Politico reports. Teamsters Union General President Sean O'Brien will be a guest at the Republican National Convention next month with a speaking role that sharply contrasts with other labor leaders' embrace of President Joe Biden. Former President Donald Trump announced the appearance by O'Brien, whose union hasn't made an endorsement yet, on his social media platform. Sean O'Brien, the general president of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, has accepted my invitation to speak at the RNC convention in Milwaukee. Our great convention will unify Americans and demonstrate to the nation's working families they come first. When I am back in the White House, the hardworking Teamsters and all working Americans will once again have a country they can afford to live in and be respected around the world. Sean, I look forward to seeing you represent the Teamsters in Milwaukee. Together, we can make America great again. A spokesperson for the Teamsters confirmed that O'Brien will participate in the GOP convention and has made an identical request to appear at the Democrats' convention in Chicago the following month in August. So just so we are certain on these details, this is not an endorsement of Donald Trump. He is shopping around to try and get the best deal, as union leaders, I guess, are supposed to do. So this is not him endorsing Donald Trump. It's rather him saying, hey, I want to speak to your people and I want to speak to the Democrats' people, and then we'll go from there. But as this quote says, this is true. This is truly unprecedented, since it will be the very first time a Teamsters general president has addressed the RNC, Cara Denise said in a statement. Our 1.3 million members represent every political background, and their message needs to be heard by as wide an audience as possible, and that includes all political candidates running for elected office. We appreciate former President Trump's openness to inviting a labor leader to speak on behalf of working families. Long a Democratic mainstay, the Teamsters have sought to make inroads with the GOP this election cycle. The union held listening sessions with several Republican presidential candidates, including Trump, following a personal appeal from O'Brien. And the union's political arm has given thousands to both the RNC and the DNC. At the same time, O'Brien has had heated exchanges with anti-union Republican lawmakers, most notably on multiple occasions during congressional hearings with Senator Mark Wayne Mullen that risked turning physical. The Teamsters are perhaps the most politically influential of the handful of national labor unions that have yet to endorse a presidential candidate, and O'Brien said they intend to announce their choice sometime after this summer's convention. So, obviously not a commitment one way or the other, but the fact that the Teamsters president is appearing at the RNC says quite something. It speaks to, if there's a pattern on this stream, this is sort of a bit of a look in the rearview mirror, a bit of a trip down memory lane, a little bit of a nostalgic show this evening, if there is one theme here. And the theme is, how did the Democrats get to this place? How did the Democrats get to a place where the Teamsters president is shopping around and he's going to go butter up the RNC? Just the fact that it's not a done deal by this point in the year, heading into July of an election year, with Donald Trump, the guy who shits in gold toilets, opposing the Democratic Scranton Joe, right? The idea that he is shopping around speaks volumes to how detached the Democrats have become from labor, that this would even be a question.
Yeah, well, speaking of memory lane, this story definitely reminded me of the article I wrote about how we'd be better off infiltrating the Republican Party. And it was kind of a thought experiment, but kind of not. My argument was basically, if you were going to stay in two-party politics, you would probably have a better chance of infiltrating and impacting the Republican Party than you would the Democratic Party. And the fact that Trump was able to win in their primaries, unlike Bernie, demonstrates that. Like, they did not rig it against him because they're afraid of their voters in a way that Democrats are not. It's funny. They used to have the saying, Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. It's quite the opposite, actually. It's quite the opposite.
Now it is. Yep.
But part of my argument was, hey, it's not the first time the parties have switched what class they serve. The New Deal era, the Democrats were the party of the Confederacy. They were the party. They were the Dixiecrats, and because in the urban centers they pulled in a lot of immigrant groups, and also because of the Western expansion, they wound up flipping their bases with the Republicans. So who's to say that can't happen again? And I would argue that it's almost inevitable that it does, because you've had the working class gradually drifting into the Republican Party since Reagan. So how long can the Republican Party have a working class base that it ignores and doesn't serve economically? Especially given that this is a party that's more sensitive to issues of ignoring their voters.
Well, yeah, and the parallel to that is how long can the union leadership remain out of step with its rank and file? So we got a guy on Rumble here says, I think it shows a change in the rank and file. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
Sure.
I don't know Sean O'Brien. I haven't studied his career, all that well. But given the fact that there was that very tested, that very sort of testy exchange with the GOP, was it a senator, I think, or he was a senator or a congressman a while back? I think it's pretty safe to assume that his loyalties at the end of the day probably lie more with the Democrats than the Republicans. But as this chat says, when your rank and file start drifting to the Republicans, it's no longer tenable to just automatically side with the Democrats every time an election year comes around, because you're going to get too much shit from the rank and file, right? So this is really an indication that the base of the unions are now becoming more in line with, and this is not true as a majority yet, as of now, probably, but they're certainly drifting more into the GOP. That was a trend that started under Reagan and accelerated greatly in 2016, and is probably, as we're going to see, would not shock me if exit polls start coming in on election night this year, seeing an even further shift amongst union rank and file into the base of Trump. And that is almost certainly why Sean O'Brien has to appear like he is vetting both candidates. Like I said, I don't know this. I don't know the man. I haven't studied his life as much as some people might have. But I would, if I had to bet everything I own, I would bet Sean O'Brien himself more sympathetic to Biden than Trump. But the fact that he can't come out and endorse is evidence of that shift at the rank and file that we've been witnessing.
Well, it's been decades since the Democrats had anything but contempt for working class people.
Exactly.
This is where there's a lot of debate about how much culture matters. I think it matters a lot. I think when you have a Democratic Party whose cultural posturing is completely contemptuous of working class people, and in spite of all of their virtue signaling about being anti-racist, in a demonstration, a lot of people say when you look at things from a class perspective, it's class reductionist. Well, you know what? As the working class drifts towards Trump, guess who they're taking with them? Non-white working class people. There's a common class perspective there that no matter who you are, whatever identity group you affiliate with, your class identity is drawing people to Trump. Now this, I would really recommend a video by almost friend of the show, Thomas Frank, why Hillary Clinton lost. I've mentioned it many times. It's about a 10-minute video. It's an interview he did with a French magazine, and he lays all this out. He says, the Democrats wanted to be the party of the wired workers, of the elites, of the very smart people, of the more suburban, wealthy, professional class set, and they thought that the working class had no place else to go. And Donald Trump, the secret sauce with Donald Trump was that he was really the first Republican to come out and capitalize on this. He was the first one to speak the language and start questioning these trade deals. Republicans never do this. And that's why the Democrats were able to maintain their advantage. Because in the end, you're running against Mitt Romney. It's a layup. It's easy, right? The working class is going to rally to fucking Bain Capital, Mitt Romney. Right. Donald Trump goes up there, and whatever his sins as a businessman, he spoke the language. That's what I always say is most remarkable to me about Donald Trump, because he was to the manner born, but he sounds like a guy from a bar in Queens. Yeah, maybe George Bush says he liked to talk to the roughnecks and the oil rig guys, so one would assume that's how he got that in his ear, to sound folksy that way, even though he's from as patrician a family as you could be born to. Maybe Trump liked to talk to the guys on the job site because he talks like one, and that's it. That's the whole key to his success. He is speaking in this working class language that, because the Democrats have very, very systematically gotten rid of their working class over decades with malice, with absolute disgust and contempt for everything they stand for. They don't have anyone who can speak that language anymore. That's why they're fucking shooting Biden up with vitamins or whatever the fuck they're doing to keep this guy alive, because he's one of the last guys who can kind of talk that shit. Can kind of capture that aesthetic.
Yeah,
once he's
Scranton,
gone,
Uncle Joe shit. Yeah.
Who the hell do they have who can even talk that shit?
No, nobody. I mean, literally nobody that I can think of. Not Newsom, not Whitmer. Nobody. No. I just had a great idea. Now, this is to say this is extremely unlikely to happen is probably an overstatement. But what if we invited Thomas Frank to our election night live show and had him sit in with us all night as Trump wins? That would be the most amazing content ever. Like, that would be one of the best streams in the history of YouTube.
We get him, we get Norm.
That would be great. Could you imagine doing an election night live stream and Trump wins with Thomas Frank on the panel? That would be so much fun.
That would be pretty epic.
It would just be so much fun because he's such a nice man. You know, he's a very nice guy with a sense of humor, but he's going to be, a little bit, what's the word? Verklempt that night. Yeah, and that would make for a lot of fun. That would actually be a lot of fun. It might even be worth doing it in DC. If he said I would come if you did it in DC, we should probably move the show to DC. I think we can fill 60 seats in DC. I think we could do that. If we can get Thomas Frank to be there, that would just be too big to pass up.
We could fill 60 in DC, but we could fill 200 in New York at the bitter end.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. Thomas Frank. Imagine sitting at a table with Thomas Frank watching these returns come in.
Yeah. Well, any chance of that flew with your rant about the country.
Yeah, that would just be a really great time. Indeed.
You should have thought of that before.
Yeah, I didn't think of it at the time. Yeah, at the time, that's true. If we had those plans in the works at the time, maybe I'd have been more careful. Amadeus, I said it from the beginning, the progressive just wanted to co-opt the anti-Zionist movement, and ironically that has cost them. Yes, that is a very good point. It has cost them. It has cost them because they have co-opted the sort of Zionist light progressive Democrats, but there are not enough of those in the party to win a primary. Exactly. You need the actual activists who have been in the streets to have your back, and they're not going to.
Yeah, look at what that guy said. If you listen closely, the Jews for Jamaal, he said Israel is fine.
Israel's
Netanyahu
fine,
badly represents the country.
No, they're going to blame it all on him. That's the line. Right. Exactly. Sparky, make Israel Syria again. In those Ottoman Empire days, Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. Thank you, Sparky. We should start recording Sparky Super Chat sound drops so that when we get ones that we've heard a million times, we can
just do it.
Just play it. Just slap it down. Colin Radix Carter. Hey, Colin, how are you?
What's
Long
up,
time no
Colin?
see, my friend. Thanks for the $4.99. Thanks for watching. No one is talking about how Bowman took money from J Street. Yes, which is a liberal version of AIPAC. Not to mention he voted to send weapons to Israel. Yeah, that's the thing. They suck too. They suck. I mean that's the other thing.
You know what? I saw some of that on Twitter, and I was looking at cutting it in, but I didn't have enough time to do the research, because you don't want to throw something like that in unless you're sure. Because somebody's there are some screenshots of his donations and shit floating around.
Yeah. No, he has received Israel money. I mean, he ran in Westchester County, man. This is why he's gonna lose, man. I mean, you can't cross Israel in Westchester and win. It's extraordinarily difficult. Extraordinarily difficult. If not impossible. When he won in 2020, that was the George Floyd summer. This wasn't on anybody's radar back then. All this Israel stuff. It should have been. That's most of our failings. I won't speak for everyone. I'll speak for myself. It was a failing of mine. But this was not an issue in that campaign. When this becomes an issue and you're running in fucking Scarsdale, in fucking Tarrytown, in Hastings-on-Hudson, yeah, that's going to be a big fucking problem. The only movement is in Biden's diapers. Thank you.
I mean, I'm just going to say I'm not a superstitious man. But no sooner did that rally end with door knocking planned than the skies opened up and started pouring.
No, it was a Murphy's Law kind of day. It really was. It was quite the day. Sparky, CIA head Soros helped him set up NGOs in Eastern Europe in the 80s to foment discord. He specialized in trading Eastern Bloc countries, so he had helpful connections. Soros, CIA, Five Eyes, Mossad. Thank you, Sparky.
Well, yeah, there's that whole thing where he crashed the currency of the UK, right? He did this whole currency manipulation thing where he crashed the pound and made millions.
Interesting. I'd have to read up more on that.
Yeah, no, it's for real. It's not just the neo-Nazis who say it.
Username sounds like the security guards that kept Vega were brought to you by Apex Security Group. FRG Eric Prince, the group tied to what's going on in Sudan, full service fascists. Interesting. Did you see that Did you see that marked on their swag? Doc Durkin, cojones, huevos, balls. Jose clearly has a pair. My main Vega bringing the fire. Thanks, Doc Durkin. Appreciate that very much. Let's see here. Jose should have asked to speak to the manager. Those PNCs would have understood that on a visceral level. Oh, this guy's one of us. That's true. You could have said
you got a good point there. I will say, from having been around these things enough now, okay, so I'm getting a little cynical in the sense that I'm not impressed anymore. So there is that. But you know, I mean, that's just natural. But my observation of the kind of people who were keeping Jose out, not the security guards, but the volunteers, the people who volunteer for this shit, it's the celebrity thing. It really is. They're the kind of people who are into celebrities. They're just a little too nerdy to just be into the Kardashians. They've got some political interests. They like gaming out aimless political plans that are never going to come to fruition. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is, especially, there was this explosion around the Bernie movement. So if you volunteered for Bernie, you were never meeting him. You would get in the same room with him. I worked security for him, but I didn't meet him at that time. But now, in a normal campaign, the way all these things have shrunk down, if you become a volunteer for AOC, you're probably gonna meet AOC. If you're volunteering for Bernie, you're probably gonna meet Bernie. So it's a nice little hobby for these people where they get to meet their faves. Oh, it's my fave. Oh, Bernie. Oh my God. I shook Bernie's hand. That's the draw for a lot of these people. And then once they're in that, maybe they start thinking about becoming an assistant or getting a real job with the campaign that gets paid. And some of them will. Not most of them, but some of them will. That's one of the most amazing things when you start hanging around these campaigns. where you see like the people who are like the road managers are like 24, 25, because for what they pay, like grown-ups will not take that job.
Right.
So it's like kids taking those jobs of like enormous responsibilities on these campaigns. But that's where these people are coming from, man. They just want to be close to famous people that they are, fetishize.
Lisa Coppins, thank you for the 100 New Zealand dollars. Thank you very much. Let's do a cowbell for Lisa. Love your show. This is the only one I can view live because I live in New Zealand. Thank you, Lisa. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much. And glad you can catch the show. By the way, Lisa, you're not alone. We have 2,622 in the chat, which means for the first time we will drop this. In the year 2525. There you go.
We went right. We dissed Prince.
Well, yeah, we went right past him. Obsolete
Blew right
now.
past Prince.
Yep, obsolete now. Yeah, we have the Prince 1999, and then we have the 2525. Sparky, I meant civilians paid to be there. No, I don't think so. I think it was staff and true believers, and that amounts to a very small crowd. Very small crowd, terrible turnout. The Peopled Infinite, I've been MIA last week. Is the BJG interview dead in the water or just pending a reschedule date? Hoping the latter. Stay cool, DD. I mean, I guess it's pending a reschedule. I mean, now that we're switching to 3 a week starting in July, we'll try and make that happen.
We have a list. This is part of our plan. Now that we're going to 3, we have a list of people we've wanted to interview forever that we could feasibly interview, like George Galloway, people like John Mearsheimer,
right.
Brianna. So we're going to focus on that more than we have.
Right, because now coordinating, like before, they'd have to be available when we went live, and not everybody is. Now we can really do it, whenever they can. Colin, thank you, Colin. Teamsters are working with Chris Small's ALU to work out a deal, in part because they are broke. No say from the rank and file. Interesting. Thank you, Colin. In any case, it looked like a lot of upper middle class twits were at that rally. Yes, indeed. Ken Texican, $50 just to keep doing that thing you do. Well, that's $10, but thank you, Texican. Appreciate that. That's a start. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that very much.
I bet it was 50 at the start of the show. That's how bad the inflation's getting.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. Doc Durkin, my man Vega, clearly has a pair in bringing the fire. Ellen says, Keaton and Russ, y'all let me know if I can help in any way while Keaton is on paternity leave. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to offer. And yeah, I can't imagine why we wouldn't recruit you for a bit, Ellen. You're very popular in these parts.
Yeah, we need a back-end tech person, so.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Study up.
Study up, that's right. Indeed. All right, folks, we're going to move on. Some news on the domestic front here. Pollution from East Palestine train derailment rained down in 16 states. Study says, yes, 16. So on February 3rd, 2023, as we know, a train carrying toxic chemicals crashed in northeastern Ohio, sending up a large black cloud over Ohio and Pennsylvania after officials decided to burn off the hazardous materials. As the chemicals lofted into the air, the pollution spread as far as 16 states, according to a new study. I didn't expect to see an impact this far out, said David Gay, lead author of the study. There's more going on here than most people would have guessed, including me. Toxic chemicals rained down from South Carolina to Wisconsin to New England following the accident, according to the new analysis in the Environmental Research Letters Journal. Overall, the pollution spread over 540,000 square miles, or 14% of the United States land area. People closer to the accident reported rashes, nausea, and headaches, but Gay said the low chemical concentrations farther away from the accident weren't toxic, but are pretty unusual at a lot of places. Many of those pollutants can run off and affect marine and plant life. It's not death and destruction. It's fairly low concentrations, but they are very high relative to the normal that we typically see, some of the highest we've measured in the last 10 years, Gay said. The accident occurred around 9 p.m. on February 3rd near East Palestine, a town of almost 5,000 residents on the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. The train, operated by Norfolk Southern, experienced a mechanical issue that caused more than 50 cars to derail. Some of the trains obviously were carrying hazardous materials, including a known human carcinogen called vinyl chloride. Now, here's the thing, obviously, and we know this, but just to refresh, in an emergency decision, officials authorized a, quote, my editorial there, controlled burn of the hazardous chemicals to prevent a catastrophic explosion. But as the vinyl chloride burned, it broke into separate chloride and hydrogen ions in the atmosphere that got carried by the wind to other locations. When it began to rain in various places, the pollutants were pushed from the air and deposited on the ground. The National Atmospheric Deposition Program at the University of Wisconsin at Madison collects these ground depositions weekly across 260 sites across North America. Gay, who serves as coordinator of the program, routinely analyzes the data to monitor air pollutants. If you have a lot of pollution in the atmosphere, you get a lot of wet deposition pollution at the ground. So here is a map surveying areas with abnormally high chloride concentrations the week of and week after the East Palestine train derailment are shown. Yellow circles show measurement in the 90th percentile or above compared to the last decade. East Palestine is marked with the star there in the sort of middle of that map. But as you can see, super high concentrations relative to normal. Like I said, not enough to pose a threat to humans, but enough to do atmospheric damage in terms of plant life, water life, and even a smell in the air. You could see 99 out in Wisconsin, 91 up in Maine, quite the radius, where it says 97 in the middle there, just about, I don't know, about an inch on your screen to the right. That 97, that's about where I live now. And a little bit south of there is where I lived at the time. Now, I have a horrible sense of smell. I was never able to really smell much of anything in my life. But I remember a few days after that accident, my wife said it smells like perfume outside. There's a chemical smell in the air. I did not smell it. Like I said, I have never had a good nose. But this is all looks here. There's very, very little actual functionality here. But I said that has to be chemicals being carried over from the jet stream. I mean, we're about 500 miles from that town, which compared to Earth's surface is a pretty short distance. I mean, it's a long distance in the fact that, like, it's a long car ride, but it's actually not that long a distance in the grand scheme of things. And the fact that you have a radius where you could see the after effects of this that far out really just puts into perspective what was done to these poor people in that town. You have to ask, did they have to release those chemicals the way they did, or was that done to get the track cleared out as quickly as possible so that commerce can run as quickly as possible through there?
Yeah, my money's on B.
Yeah.
B.
Yeah.
They needed to clear it for commerce. And also this is another case, very much like Boeing, very much like the 2008 financial crash, where there was a lot of malfeasance at the executive level that led up to this crash, a lot of deception on the part of the CEO. Well, where's the criminal trial?
Yeah.
Where is the criminal trial? And this is another point that Thomas Frank often makes. For the poor, there is just brutal enforcement of any infraction of the law. Whereas if you're wealthy, it's just there's really almost no crime you can commit that they're going to send you to jail for. You're by definition too big to jail. This is supposedly, we had this whole American Revolution to get rid of aristocracy, but the logic of aristocracy is very much with us, and very much like peasants, it's rarely questioned. It's accepted that there is going to be a two-tier justice system. people might grumble when it's just too out of control, but they do kind of assume that, well, wealthy elites, of course, they're not going to get the same justice that we do. People didn't always assume that, but they've gradually been conditioned to bow their head to their betters.
Yes. And as far as this East Palestine story goes, it doesn't end there. This was a story from mid-June. Toxic garlic should have prompted EPA to warn against gardening near Ohio derailment, Watchdog says. So let's go to a little news report about toxic garlic being grown near the site.
This isn't the band Toxic Garlic, right?
No, not to be confused with the band Toxic Garlic.
Toxic garlic in East Palestine, Ohio. That troubling finding is prompting renewed concerns tonight about the safety of the area and risks to the residents who still call it home, more than a year after a toxic train derailment wreaked havoc on their lives. So here's what we know. Last week, the nonprofit Government Accountability Project filed a petition with the EPA, calling on the agency to conduct additional soil studies near the derailment site. The petition cites independent testing that found high levels of chemicals in garlic grown in East Palestine. The EPA insisted it was safe to garden there just weeks after the derailment, based on tests conducted by state officials in multiple locations around the area. The agency has dismissed independent testing in the past, citing concerns with quality control. Now, the petition echoes demands residents have been making for months, asking federal officials to acknowledge the dangers caused by the derailment and compensate them accordingly. Scott Smith has been conducting independent...
Okay, now we're going to go to Scott Smith, who makes this point, but I just want to reiterate in case you missed that, because she was talking kind of fast there. It wasn't Norfolk Southern that said, don't worry about it, it's safe to grow here. It was the EPA. It was the supposed watchdog agency that's supposed to be keeping a company like Norfolk Southern in compliance with environmental regulation. They're the ones that said, don't worry about it, safe to move back in, grow whatever shit you want in the ground, it's all good. That's the EPA it came from. Okay, now he's going to explain why that is.
Tests in East Palestine. He is CEO of U.S. Biosolutions and says it is his mission in life to focus on solving contamination problems. Thank you both for joining us. Scott, I want to start with you. Cancer-causing dioxins, I think is how that's said, are the biggest concern here when it comes to chemicals found in the soil. What can you tell us about them? Why are they so dangerous?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us, and this is very important for the community, Lauren. But the cancer-causing chemicals here, to put it in perspective, I've been in 60 disasters, starting with my own, and every chemical I've ever encountered is in East Palestine. This is what makes us different. The mixtures of chemicals are unprecedented. And I have a saying, you can't find what you don't look for. The EPA is being very, very clever here because they're clearly a captured agency and they've been corrupted by the multi-billion-dollar undue influence. So, for example, in the garlic or the garden produce, we had a control sample from a resident that did not have any before the derailment, and the preliminary results we got with the few samples we took were 54,000% higher than the control.
Wow.
You can't find what you don't look for. Here's what the EPA did. They went upwind miles away. They have not done any actual tests in the garden or in the soil in what I call the hot zones in East Palestine. So in simple terms, you can't find what you don't look for.
Says it all right there. Wow. I mean, that is pretty fucking damning shit there. I mean, that is just, it's, I would say it's unbelievable, but it's really not unbelievable. It's really part and parcel of what this fucking shithole country, as I to paraphrase what I said to the great Thomas Frank, has turned into. You wouldn't expect anything different. But it falls to this guy here who said, hey, why don't we test the garlic? Why don't we test the crops in the hot zone? Because you can't find what you don't look for.
Right. Well, this is where trust the science has become such a hated phrase, because it has come to represent the reality that the agencies and the authorities that are meant to be protecting us are invoking an older ethos of putting science first that they do not actually represent. They have stolen the credibility that science once had and corrupted it in order to line their own pockets, and they use invocations of its name to protect themselves from reprimand and consequences. And of course, our friend Dr. Can I say? I don't want to get us in trouble.
I don't know who you're talking about.
There's a certain doctor associated with the phrase "I am science," very, very, very much like Louis XIV.
Yeah.
I am the state.
Yeah.
That is the modern version of I am the state. I am science. So everyone knows who I'm talking about. I don't know what the rules are on YouTube these days, so I'm gonna err on the side of caution, but you know what I mean.
He's got to study up for when my baby comes, otherwise I'm going to come back. I'm going to have to be driving pizzas around again.
Yeah. it'll be like Kill Bill. His kids will grow up and come for revenge.
Oh yeah,
against
exactly.
me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to give Russell a Regent-style pop quiz, proctored and everything, multiple choice exam.
I'm going to be careful about the doctor who shall not be named. But this is why people have lost faith in our institutions, and they're right to. They're right to. The institutions that are supposed to be protecting us, they're just revolving door agencies where these scumbags very often come out of these same companies they're supposed to be regulating. And so why do you go into government? It's a resume builder.
Right.
It's the same reason you go and you get a certificate that you can put on your resume, right? Oh, I did 2 years. And that also helps when you go back out to get the real job. Now you can lobby for the company because you know all the people at the agency. You worked at the agency. You know who to call. You make yourself more valuable to these corporations. Plus, you do them some favors. You get a quid pro quo when you get out. I highly recommend, I've recommended this before, on Netflix, there's a show called The Bleeding Edge that will fucking horrify you, about the medical device industry and how corrupted it is. We all talk about the pharmaceutical agencies. Nobody ever looks at the medical device agencies. They're horrible. They're horrible. Like, they approve things that are deadly, that are dangerous, that destroy people's lives, and they're all just bought off people who have worked for the same companies they're supposed to be regulating. There are stories in that of people who were getting hip replacements that were melting, and their symptoms were getting misdiagnosed as Alzheimer's because they were getting blood poisoning.
Right.
So they were getting misdiagnosed as being senile. They weren't senile. And they kept putting this in people. They didn't just shut it down immediately. Today, I really, knowing what I know, I think friend of show RFK said this, or it might not have been. It might have been somebody else. Only use medications that have been around for a long time. I try to adhere to that. Like, hey man, if you've got bronchitis, yeah, they've had medications that treat bronchitis for a very long time. You're okay. Anything new, that Ozempic shit, I would not be fucking with that. I would not be fucking with any of these new drugs because we're in an age where they really don't care. They really don't care. They will tell you it's safe based on the bare minimum of information and so that the pharmaceutical companies manufacturing these things can profit. Of course, there was a very big case of this, some might say, recently, but we can't talk about that here.
Well, this is a year and a half out now, and this toxic garlic story just broke. Just a week ago. That was in the AP. I think June 15th. It dated something like that. The font is very small now, but yeah, mid-June, over a year out. And what this guy is saying is they never tested in the hot zone. Right. They never even looked in the hot zone. They looked where they knew they would get a good result, so they could tell people, well, it's cool, right? And meanwhile, he said inside the hot zone, what was it, a 54,000% above normal increase? So yeah, that's where he says you don't know what you don't find what you don't look for, right?
As a nation, we are in our dissolute third generation of the royal family phase. Very often you see this pattern where the person who establishes the lineage is not the greatest in the lineage. It's the second one, because the second one is close enough to the warrior king who established the lineage, had that kind of vitality, close enough to that perspective, but knows the ways of court, knows the ways of governance. That, your Kubla Khans, right? That'll wind up being the great one. And then the third one is just the one that fucks it all up, the one that inherits all these benefits and advantages and just uses that name to just completely go on an epic quest of debauchery. That's where we are now. We're in the idiot third generation of an aristocracy.
Indeed. John M. in Minnesota, more union news. Headline, pilots union suggests changing cockpit to flight deck for inclusivity, from Breitbart. So, yeah, that's a fun article for a Breitbart guy to write. Didn't Trump work on or at least visited a lot of construction sites with his dad when he was growing up? Yes. Maybe that's where he got a common touch. Well, yeah, he dealt with...
That's my theory, yeah.
He dealt with a lot of working guys. Yeah, indeed. No, that's certainly a big part of it. He knows, he has bought concrete from people, so that gives you a certain leg up when it comes to, the working class lingo there. Omer says, putting ice patches on my torn knee. Ooh, playing Ghost of Tsushima on a PS5, listening to Doody. What an Aussie morning, FML. Love the show. Well, hopeful best wishes for a recovery on that torn knee. That sounds very painful. That sounds terrible. Send Russ to Dearborn, says Ken Texican. That's right. If you want to help send Russ to Dearborn, you can go to givesendgo.com/do dissidents. That is the link to help send Russ to Dearborn. We're kind of up against it to raise money for that trip. We would have to book that soon. And so donations are extremely helpful if that's going to happen. U.S., U.K., and shit reel are the axis of evil. Yes, thank you, Chris Shipley. Appreciate that very much. Let's see, where are we here? Come on. What happened to my stuff here? There we go. AOC on stage was so cringe. No, they got so fired up when it's time to vote for them, right? When it's going to cost them their job, they're all fired up, and now it's time to fight. Now it's time to come, we're going to kick some Wall Street ass. And then when they get there, what do? They suck up. And this whole race, Bowman's been sucking up to the Democrats. He's saying it's MAGA Republicans who are trying to force him out. It's literally a Democratic primary. It's literally not MAGA Republicans. MAGA Republicans, right, I'm sure, would love to vote for George Latimer in that primary. They can't because New York will not allow them to. So the MAGA Republicans are not the issue on the voter level. Are there some rich Republicans donating to George Latimer? Sure. But the MAGA Republicans cannot vote you out. Only Democrats can vote you out.
And seeing Bernie do the whole, we're going to show them that the oligarchs are not going to win, after you fucking slammed Biden's cock down your throat the second that it became clear you weren't going to win because Obama made a couple of phone calls. Never said a fucking word about that. Never said a word about what they did to him in the 2016 primary. And you have the nerve to stand up there and tell people that old B-side record of yours, you're gonna play that shit again. Oh, we're gonna beat the oligarchs. They fucking, you bent your knee to the oligarchs.
Well,
how
also,
the fuck you coming out there and talking that bullshit now?
I mean, even if we are to take his premise there at face value, and buy into the sort of framing that this is about the people versus the oligarchs, they are almost certainly not going to beat the oligarchs. Latimer is almost certainly going to win on Tuesday. So no, you're not going to beat the oligarchs. You can't beat the oligarchs
by how
at their
much?
game. Yeah. I mean, I think Bowman will break 40 points. I don't think it's going to be a 20-point route, but I think Latimer will win by a good 5 or 6 points. 5 to 7 would be my guess. I put the over under at 5.8 points, and probably take the over. I think Latimer is going to win by a little more than that. Not much more, but a little bit. Not gambling advice. Also, Boeing Starliner lost in space. Yeah, we have to do that one on Tuesday. Apparently, there's a Boeing spacecraft that is not coming back into the atmosphere properly. Who's the guy?
People keep telling me to cover that.
Butch Wilmore. That's my favorite astronaut name ever. Imagine if Butch Wilmore were the first on the moon, and he were down in history books. Butchie Wilmore.
I mean, you name your kid Butch Wilmore, you're pretty much counting on them being an astronaut, because what else can they be?
Yeah, Butch Wilmore. What a name. All right. And obviously we hope Butch Wilmore makes it back safe. He's up there with one other person, right?
Boeing strikes again.
The People's Infinite, 3 boys. Keaton got that dog in him. Wiener dog. Y'all the best. Yes, indeed. Thank you. The People's Infinite. Appreciate that. Let's see. Love seeing Jose bringing the fire. Vega. Doc Durkin's really showering praise upon Jose tonight. Thank you, Doc Durkin. Appreciate that. Let's see here. $1 Million Trooper appears to be more interest and energy for Palestine than for any other candidates. Yes, as it should be since they all suck. Yes. Do you think Trump is outdrawing Palestine protests? Nobody else seems to be close. That's kind of apples and oranges, and it depends a lot on location. Trump's Philly rally was not particularly well attended. It looked like it, but they had the upper decks closed, like they weren't seating people up there, which is not that surprising. I mean, Philly is a very Democrat town. So Trump is kind of hit and miss with the crowds. I mean, the Bronx thing wasn't that big,
No.
It really wasn't.
No, it wasn't. I actually... this I didn't get on camera because I was saying that the crowd was small, and the guys I was talking to, the last guys I talked to, were saying, "Well, what about Trump's rally?" I said, "What?" I said, compared to this, like, are you serious? They're like, "Well, how much bigger was it?"
At least 5 or 6 times.
10.
10.
I would say
okay,
10.
so then you're looking at they really didn't break 500 here. I think Trump had a few thousand.
I think
Trump had like 4,000 about. So yeah, so then you're looking at about 500 at the high end of the estimate here, which is about what it looked like. It didn't look like 1,000 people. I've been to enough events to know what 1,000 people looks like.
It didn't to me either. I was like, well, I was distracted. Maybe there were more people than I realized. But yeah, to my eye, it didn't look like 1,000 people.
No. You fellas should see what Newark smells like in the summer, like swimming in the Hudson. Yeah, I've been to Newark in the summertime a few times, but thankfully I was driving through with the air conditioning on, so I didn't smell it. But I have seen it, and yeah, no, it's not a pretty sight either. No offense to the Newark local. Let's see here.
There's a reason it's as close to the city as it is, and the houses are still relatively cheap.
Yeah, indeed. Not to worry, venture capital company Ancora is trying to take over NE. They will run it better. They took over CSX around 2017 and stock soared, but workers were cut. Thank you. Snork Y2K, I don't concur with the rail assessment. There is a word that all media seems afraid to use, and that's blevy. That's, I forget what that is an acronym for. But would have removed a levy would have removed the town, and it's so bad companies fear would shut down. What is Blevy? I've heard that before in regard to this. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up here. Blevy. What does that stand for?
If you don't
boiling
know
liquid expanding vapor explosion. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Snorky. You should call in sometime and explain that to us. You're a patron because I would love to hear that side of it. Okay, let's see here. Ken Texican, don't ever sell out and no freaking prisoners. Thank you, Ken Texican. If you guys interview Mearsheimer, I'm going to come. Yeah, well, he's on the list. So that is definitely a possibility there. Make sure you have a fresh set of boxers for that day ready to go.
Yeah. Pete Buttigieg first, though.
Yeah, he's first on the list, yes. Ken Texican. 2 live Jews that prove a point that I can hate Zionism, but I love all people, including Jewish folk. Well, thank you, Ken Texican.
Thank you, Ken.
Appreciate that. And for $20, IR educated, but first time in the super chat. Is that 50? I believe that's 50. I think you got to 50. You hit us up with a few 10s plus a 20. That's 50. That's good for a cowbell. We can give Ken a cowbell. Made it to $50. Beautiful. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for that. Let's see. How's my... there we go. The Joker. Wow, you're still out here fighting the good fight. I'm humbled and paying attention. Thank you, Joker. You've seen a lot of people who we haven't seen in a while. We used to see you around the chat. A lot of people back again. Brendan McNamara. I was in environmental policy degree and quit when I found the EPA is just clearinghouse for pollution permits, a revolving door of toxic abuse. Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. Good to know. Sparky. Thanks for the $10. In the old days, judges asked if you're gainfully employed at bail hearings in case your absence adversely affected your work. Now they ask if you're elite to put on the right justice tier, to put you on the right justice tier. Indeed. Thank you, Sparky. MCFC, thanks for the $4.99 super sticker.
You.
American Disaster, this is Nina. I have multiple sclerosis since I stopped medication therapy. I haven't had a hospital stay in 2 years, almost 3, unlike when I was on a medication. Interesting. There's a fly here.
I am telling you, man. You know, one of the things I already kind of thought this way, but you know, generationally, I didn't grow up like the Xers. We did not grow up with the antibacterial soap and all that fucking shit. And when I was still directing, all these fucking kids I was working with, they'd all get sick. There'd be, when you work with cast, one person gets sick. It's like nursery school. It sweeps through the whole cast. They would all get sick and I wouldn't get sick. I was like, these guys, they grew up on this fucking antibacterial soap shit. One of them gets the sniffles. It's like dominoes.
Well, it's also big. I mean, my wife is in lactation. Babies who nurse, kids who nurse when they're young, they have much stronger systems.
Oh yeah,
than kids on the baby formula, much stronger. Yeah.
No, I think we over medicate. Like these people who, as soon as they're sick or something's bothering them or something's not right, they go right to a doctor. Now I'm not saying, okay, men notoriously will wait until they're at like stage 8 cancer before they go to a doctor.
Right.
I'm not saying to do that. But you see these people who have been impacted by all these pharmaceutical ads in a way that I can't even imagine. But there are people like this. Oh, I've got restless leg syndrome. Like they just want to sell you shit. They just want to sell you shit. Most problems you're going to have, you could probably address holistically. That includes cholesterol, that includes high blood sugar, anything like that. Most of it is going to go back to diet and exercise.
Kuznetsky Bassane, thanks to $2.99. Appreciate that. John M, bonus super chat to celebrate my turning 66.6 and receiving my first Social Security check. The dollar amount reflects just how rich I feel. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Congratulations.
Mazel tov.
Doc Durkin, thanks for the $5. I concur, Keaton. Having lived abroad for several years, the U.S. is indeed shittier than many third world countries. I have felt so much more freedom outside of U.S. borders.
Oh, freedom? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think I've ever been to another country, other than maybe Canada, that I didn't feel had more freedom than the United States did. Well, England. All right, that's another one.
Well, you got wrong. When have you been to Canada and felt not free in Canada?
Well, I didn't feel more free in Canada. I'm saying relative to the United States.
Gotcha.
Like, yes, you go to Costa Rica, Greece, Italy, certainly India. I mean, fuck it. Like, there are, if there is a written code governing that traffic, nobody knows what it is.
Right. Yes.
They just imagine a place with more traffic than Manhattan, where every corner, everyone just kind of has to work it out.
Right.
It's like that.
We are at here. We will get to 1999 after all, because we're at 2172 in the Rumble chat. Beautiful. Well, with that, folks, we are going to conclude this evening's program and head over to Rumble for the Q&A. So we have a big crowd over on Rumble already, 2,179, 2647 on the YouTube and Twitter chat, so almost a combined audience of 5,000 tonight. That's what we like to see. Thank you all very much for being here and hanging out with us. The party continues over on Rumble. We will be there in about 5 minutes here. Kuznetsky Bassane, EPA equals Environmental Privatization Agency. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Jake created this hyperlink so that all you have to do if you want to hang out for the Q&A is type into your URL, dudissidents.com/rumble. That takes you over to this very stream, so that makes it super easy for you. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button over on Rumble for everybody over there already. Everybody else, we hope you can join us and hang out for a little while. If you're a Patreon member, a paid Substacker, or a paid Locals member, the phone lines will open up right now. You can head over there and get on the call-in line. That's patreon.com/DoDissidents to gain call-in access right now. So if you want to go and sign up, that is one perk you could take advantage of immediately. Everybody else, we will see you next time. There will be a 5-minute intermission before a Q&A on Rumble. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to head over there and hang out with us for the after party, we would love to see you over there. Otherwise, we will be back on the air Tuesday, June 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern. That is when we will next see everybody if you're not hanging out for the Q&A. But if you come hang out with us, we'll see you in 5 minutes after this intermission. Thanks to Jake in the booth. Thanks to all you for being here. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.